So is the,
Okay, it's 1 o'clock. Keep it down out here. We're about to get started here. So, we'll go ahead and start the meeting for our first meeting of the year of 2026 for the Vacation Home Rental Advisory Board. First thing that we'll do is the Pledge of Allegiance, and if Keith can
sure,
take
please
us on the
rise.
journey.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good afternoon. I hope everybody had lunch and ready for afternoon here. So, the first thing that we'll do is public comment. At this time, public comment will be taken on those items that are within the jurisdiction and control of the Vacation Home Rental Advisory Board. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and somebody Keith will keep time. And he'll give you a 30-minute heads up when you're getting close to that time if you need the whole time. You will be told when your time begins and when 30 seconds are remaining, and you should conclude your comments once your time is up, and then please sit down. In addition to opening public comment and closing public comment, additional public comment periods may be allowed on individual agenda items at the discretion of the chairperson, and that's one of our agenda items today, actually. So when you do public comment, should you choose to, if you can write your name and then say your name on the record before you speak, and then go for it. But it's within the VHR purview. So would anybody like to have any public comment? I knew Ellie would be up there.
Just came from TRPA, glad it's across the street. Good afternoon, Ellie Weller. Happy New Year. It's the first meeting of the year, and nice to see a good crowd here today. I just want to let everybody know, I went to a Carson City listening tour. They are discussing vacation home rentals in Carson City. There's no real estate up here, but I went with an open mind, and I said, okay, people, I just spent 4 years going through a policy. I just said, take your time, breathe, make sure that you have your county commissioners and your planning commissioners aware, and after a little over 4 years, I feel like our commissioners and planning commissioners are all on board. We're going to get through hopefully a year of not too much pushing on changing the policies, and it's nice that they were very receptive to a lot of the comments I made. For the people that haven't heard me speak before, I researched Placer County's policies, and I still believe ours are the best in the basin, and I just want to thank everybody that participates as a volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? It's your 3 minutes.
Martin Van Eno, I live in Round Hill. I just want to take the opportunity, since I was here, to put on the record that I think VHRs should also be allowed in the rest of the county and not just here at the lake. We have to suffer the consequences of VHRs. I think that pain should be shared throughout the county.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? You sure? All right. We'll close public comment. So we'll do approval of the agenda for possible action. Approval of the proposed agenda. The Vacation Home Rental Advisory Board reserves the right to take items in a different order to accomplish business in the most efficient manner, to combine 2 or more agenda items for consideration, and to remove items from the agenda or delay discussion related to items on the agenda.
I move we pass the agenda as proposed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So of course, it's all 3 of those items. I guess that's kind of easy to figure out. So the next one, before we get into the agenda item, is approval of the previous minutes. So for possible action, discussion to approve the draft minutes of the September 24th, 2025 meeting of the VHR Board.
I'll move to pass those.
Second.
Second by Keith, first by Mickey. All in favor?
Aye.
There we go. 4-0. Nice. Okay, so now on to the administrative agenda, and probably why you're all here, we're going to pick a chair and a vice chair. The chairman, so what we'll do is, the first one, what I'll do is I'll read the items into the public record, and we'll have discretion to determine how the item will be presented. The timing for the agenda items is approximate, unless otherwise indicated for a specific item. Agenda items may be considered ahead of or after the schedule indicated by the agenda. Public comment may be taken on items that are identified for possible action at the discretion of the chairperson. So what we're going to do is we're going to do for possible action discussion on the election of a chair and a vice chair of the Douglas County Vacation Home Rental Advisory Board in compliance with the VHR bylaws and Douglas County Code. And I believe the bylaws is in the packet, 20.622.060A6. So what we'll do on that is we'll do public comment for both, the chair and the vice chair, to keep it simple. And then we'll take the votes on the chair and the vice chair as separate actions. Is that okay?
That's good.
Okay. That's what I was going to do. So from so public comment on, any public comment on item number one? Nothing to say about chair, vice chair, any preferences? Okay. I'll close public comment. It's going faster than expected. So I'll listen to the board then. Is there a preference for chair?
Mickey Hempler, I would like to move to have Keith remain chair for this year. He did a great job. And that's my motion.
Yeah, I don't think it seems like he served a full term. I don't know what happened.
Felt like it to me.
I think, yeah, he needs to be extended. I think he's been cheated.
Yeah,
We need to make it multiple years.
definitely.
Okay, any other comments before we, okay, I'll entertain a motion for chair.
I make a motion that Keith extend his reign.
Ms. Rain,
I agree. I second.
Mickey seconds. Glenn gives the motion, Mickey seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 4-0. Congratulations, Keith. And then vice chair, any discussion?
I propose Ms. Hempler for the vice chair. I do travel some. I try to prioritize these meetings, but occasionally I may have a problem. I mean, we were trying to schedule one, and I can only be available by phone. So I think I'd like to propose Mickey as vice chair.
Any other discussion on that?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Make a motion?
I so move.
You so move?
Yeah.
Keith moves, I'm sorry. Who seconds? You second? Glenn seconds? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0? All right. And so I gladly hand over the reins to Keith Byers.
Thank you.
Congratulations on both of you.
Thank you. So our next agenda item, item number 2 for possible action, discussion on an appeal filed by IMI Paiute LLC, Nancy Lobowitz, owner of 278 Paiute Drive, Zephyr Cove, Nevada, APN 1318-15-611-0053, VHR permit DSTR 077P, contesting a fine of $2,500 for a VHR code violation, code enforcement case 25-CE-case-VHR-0011. Mr. Strayland.
And you thought you were done talking to me. I'm going to stand up here.
Okay.
So these are just perceived code violations, so nothing personal. I just hope you guys don't take it that way. So we had an appeal filed, as already read by the chair, from IMI Paiute LLC. Your last name is Lobowitz. And this is
She manages
You're the
Yeah,
manager.
I'm her daughter, so I'll be speaking.
Daughter, okay.
I manage the property, so I'll be
Gotcha.
speaking on her behalf.
Okay. And that's 270 Paiute and Zephyr Cove. you've had a permit for 3 years, correct? You just finished 3 years, I think.
Since 19.
December,
We've had a permit since we bought it in 2019, so.
okay, yeah, our record showed since December of 2022.
No, we've had,
So-
we've had it ever since we purchased, but.
Nevertheless, the violation is of the VHR rental ordinance 20.622.040 C6 and 8 related to unreasonable noise and disturbances. Happens a lot up in Palo, so the granite or whatever causes it, but the fight times are typically from 9 at night to 8 in the morning. And the residents up here, you know, they take it very seriously. So that's, you're not the first, you're not the last.
Oh, yeah.
It happens. So it's related to the noise and disturbances, and I put page numbers in your packet to reference what I'm reading. So it's noted on page 63. In all instances, they self-identified or concurred that they were renting. At no time during the evening in question was the officer told that they were just staying at a friend's house, or which most people probably would have asked. So on October 17th at 11:33 p.m., the DCSO, Douglas County Sheriff's Office, received a noise complaint on the property from one of the neighbors directly. So they didn't call emergency contact, which is acceptable. They can call the sheriff. The deputies arrived on scene, or 2 deputies arrived on scene shortly thereafter, and as they exited their patrol vehicle, the deputies confirmed the violation, observing noise that consisted of quote unquote loud music and several voices talking, yelling, and hollering. Deputies approached the front door of the property and knocked several times, but due to level of noise, no one responded. Deputies had to access neighboring yard and use flashlights to get attention of the VHR guests. Now we have a video that will go, the body cam of the video that we can show that to in a second here. If we can get that ready. Yeah.
Excuse me, I also have the person that thought she was,
Yeah.
that said she was a renter.
It'll be our turn to see.
You guys
He's
all
just
have
giving an account of what's happening.
Let's see here. But due to level of noise, no one responded. We talked about that. After deputies contacted one of the guests, they asked, quote, who rented the house. The guest stated that his friend had and offered to call the person that rented. He called his friend, who identified herself as Gina Capella. Is that correct? Okay. Deputies then informed Gina that there was a strict noise ordinance for VHRs that prohibits loud noises past 10 p.m. It's actually 9. Gina stated, basically how do we solve the problem? And then she's heading back. So I think she was at the casino at the time. Is there a way we can solve it? This is my friend's house and I'm just at the casino. This has never happened before. I've rented it 4 years in a row. So she keeps saying she's renting people. Let me finish. This is my time. You'll get your time. The owner, Nancy Lobowitz of IMI Paiute LLC, timely filed an appeal asserting that Gina Capella was not actually a renter subject to VHR rules, but a friend who was staying for free. In support of that assertion, her property manager, Steve, provided a screenshot of a rental calendar showing that the VHR had been blocked off on October 17th by Michelle Scala, with a note reading, using it for myself. And we do get notified of people that rent, they have it for family, they're giving it to a neighbor or themselves, and they're not renting it. This in itself didn't imply that they weren't renting it, but you still could. And then some of the information that we have is that in the heat of the moment, DCSO talking to a guest and talking to the renter, it was never mentioned that it was anything other than a renter at the time. This is also stated in the body cam footage that will show an accompanying transcript, which is in your packet. Page 67 shows a letter sent to code enforcement a day later by the same person who had called DCSO the previous evening, and that's in the packet. Page 69 is an email from the property manager.
I'm the property manager, yeah, that's our emergency contact.
Oh, okay.
We're dealing with who's actually in striking range of being able to
Okay,
speak.
so we received an email the following evening, that's on page 69. A reminder that any VHR complaint, this is a reminder that any VHR complaint goes directly to the sheriff without contacting a local contact. And on page 74 is the DCSO report, and the narration is self-describing. I'm not going to read it, you can read it. But it's the 4th paragraph describes Gina as a renter in her own words. That's, page 77 is the body cam transcript that's spinning up there right now.
Yeah, they're coming to help.
And so the video, you can just follow along in the video too. You can kind of get the pictorial. And then page 81 is the speaker 5. I don't know who that was. Indicates that they must grab my phone so I can call the person that rented. So this there was nothing that indicated at the time that evening in the heat of the moment that there was anything but a rent, right? So the code officer sent a fine. That's how it worked. And then page 95, as I mentioned before earlier, talks about the blocks, the block that you guys have on the property. And then there's the appeal information is in your packet. I think it's in the back, the DocuSign. And we'll show the.
Actually, Ernie, why don't we see what their appeal statement is? Because if they don't dispute that the CSO came and basically what happened, then you probably don't need the body cam. But if they dispute that somebody, yeah, I don't think they can dispute that. Okay.
Well, the body cam would have the full name as well.
Not really.
Oh, okay.
It just had the people. It just showed the person.
Oh, okay.
Showed the people they were talking to. It didn't have names in there.
Okay.
And then the transcripts we ran from the video just kind of puts context into the transcript that's in the packet. So you don't want to show the.
Well, it's their appeal, so let's see what they have to say.
Okay.
If they dispute, then we can have this other evidence.
Oh, okay.
At this point, there's a violation of the noise, and there's a fine, and you would like to appeal it for some reason.
And so we've done this different ways. Is everyone okay not asking Mr. Strelo questions until we hear from the appellate? That's okay? All right.
Okay.
I assume I go up here. And I apologize, I'm from San Diego, so I'm freezing.
Ernie, did you take the Senate sheet?
Oh, did I?
Sorry?
Oh. I snagged it. The sign-in sheet. I'm sorry.
Happy to do it. So yeah, my name is Michelle Scala. I'm here not to argue that there was a noise violation. I'm certain there probably was a noise violation. But from our perspective, it shouldn't have run through the VHR ordinance because it wasn't a vacation rental at the time. It was a family friend, a friend of my mom's for over 20 years. And I think what's happened here is, you have the cops here, you're nervous, you don't know what to call it besides a rental. Like you're just saying, I rented from my friend, You're not saying, and why I didn't mean to interrupt you, why I had stopped you is you had said it is notated that she called her a friend. And we saw that in the police report as well. So it wasn't constantly just called a renter. There are documentation that it was a friend as well. So we're just here to say, there may have been a noise violation that should have been handled through the sheriff's department, and if we were fined for that, we completely understand, right? But there was no need for it to go to the VHR department to put a strike against our VHR permit. So that's why we're here. I'm happy to speak further on it, but that's so you guys all understand what we're doing. It's not to say there's an argument about an 11:30 call or that they weren't loud or that any of that happened. We're just trying to make sure it's being handled by the proper department. Does that make sense? Is there questions or do I sit down?
Just to clarify, you mentioned the word friend.
Yes.
Are you talking about that on page 78 or where are you referring to?
I'm so sorry, you just had read it in what you were reading, so I can't tell you what page it was on, I apologize.
It's in the transcripts, I think.
Well, because I do see friend on page 78.
Okay.
But that's referring to the person they're talking about the person, about the renter / friend being a friend. I didn't see where friend was used as instead of renter.
Sorry, and I'm sorry, I don't have it. For you.
Pardon what?
It's in the police report also.
That's 608.
I think it's 83.
And then to sidestep all of
No,
this.
okay, sorry, just to clarify.
Yeah,
Let's read the full transcript.
Top of 79.
You guys are way too loud, okay, so I need to look at the permit. Who rented the house, sir? I'm not, my friend. My friend would be the renter of the house, not the friend is a renter of the owner. Is your friend here, friend being referring to the renter / friend, we yet to be determined. Is there anybody I can talk to? I need to talk to somebody. Okay, you can talk to me. I'm second in command here. Okay, but I can talk, I mean, I put it on the cabin. Okay, is this a friend of yours? I don't see any of those friends. She's a friend of mine. I don't see, what I thought you said was that somebody had referred to the relationship between the owner and the friend as a friend.
So, thank you for that clarification. That was not what I was speaking to.
Oh, okay.
So in the actual police report, they quote her as saying, my friend.
Okay,
And I read that before we did this. But
Gotcha.
like I said, the reason we're here is this was a misunderstanding and to try and I brought our friends. Like, I brought our friend to speak beyond her own behalf because we didn't know how else to prove it. I mean, with maybe timestamp pictures or, this is a 20-year relationship, so it's not like, I don't know if anybody has done this, but we brought her here to testify for herself, you know, and let you guys know this is a family friend, not somebody that we took money from. She came as an owner guest, and unfortunately this happened, but it, again, doesn't seem to fall into the jurisdiction of our VHR ordinance. So that's why we're here. So Gina's welcome to speak as well if you guys want to hear from her.
She wants to speak, actually.
yeah, when would we want to have a motion of standing? Or should we do it now, or should we wait until all the testimony?
It's up to you, Chair.
Okay, let's just continue on with the testimony. So I just want to make sure I'm reading you correctly. In the police report, it says, upon contact at the front door, I eventually was able to speak with the renter, Gina Capella, via telephone. Gina stated she was the signed renter of the residence, in addition to being friends with the owner of the residence. That's the sentence you were referring to?
That's what I was.
All right, thank you. But so she said she was the signed renter, in addition being a friend.
I don't know what a signed renter is, but the friend part was what I
We're
was
talking about what she said.
grabbing
Okay,
onto.
Okay. Okay, I think we're at the point where you kind of present, and then we'll go into.
Yeah, so again, we brought Gina up to testify for herself, you know, that she is in fact a family friend of ours. This in fact this is a zero financial situation, that she was there as our guest. Okay?
Can you just clarify who you are? I mean, so you are Scala,
I am Michelle Scala. I'm
Prop-
Nancy Labowitz's daughter.
Okay.
I manage the property, and then obviously have on-site contacts and help and cleaning and whatever.
and so Lux Villa?
Lux Villa is kind of my on-site contact, so I use them to help me coordinate things here in Tahoe because I'm in San Diego.
Okay, and the commission, when it is rented, who gets the commission?
Me.
Okay, and Lux Villa gets
We pay Lux Villa for
Yep.
their help.
significant amount or minor amount, or how much?
Minor amount, it just depends on the monthly rental, so we give them like a 10% of whatever we rent for that
Okay.
month. Yeah, for their help.
So that they would, so Lux Rental would get a 10%.
Yes, of our monthly.
Gotcha, okay.
Mickey Hempler.
Yeah.
And so Lux is basically your emergency contact.
Yeah, because of the way, because they're not Nevada licensed, so we can't have them be a full-fledged property owner for us. So that's why we owner manage it, and then we have them as our emergency contact. And then we adhere to all of those tier 2 regulations, right? We can only have 9, even though the house is.
And
much
where are
bigger.
they located?
They're right here on, I mean, I have their address for you,
Okay.
but
They're on Kingsbury, right?
they're on South Lake Tahoe Drive. I think.
Okay.
I can pull up the
There's not a
address for
South
you,
Lake
but it's
Tahoe
within the
Drive,
mileage of the,
but they're on the California side.
yes,
Okay.
yes, their office is located on the California side.
Okay.
Just to clarify, it's a 9 occupancy, right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying, we have to hold it at that for tier 2, but we
Yeah.
could have,
So they're allowed to.
Owner manager.
yeah.
It's your time, so if,
Yeah,
however,
no,
who would like to.
I think I've said everything.
Would any more I mean, I'm trying to keep people from sitting down, getting up, sitting down. Any questions for Ms. Scala? Ms. Scala, before she sits? Okay,
Wonderful.
who would like to speak next?
Hi, my name is Gina Capella, and I just wanted to clarify what you just read about a rental, what did you read for?
Assigned renter? I think it
Yeah,
was.
and that was at the house, you're saying? That was all taking place at the house?
When you spoke,
Please.
when you, from what
that
I'm
sentence you
reading,
just
this is,
read, yeah.
this is the sheriff's report.
Right.
And I think it's when they spoke to you on the phone.
Maybe they
Okay,
called you.
because I wasn't at the house when they
Right,
showed.
this is, that they asked to speak with the renter via telephone, and Gina stated she was the signed renter of the residence in addition to being friends with the owner of the residence.
I was never signed anything, because I didn't sign anything, because,
No, well, I'm only telling you what's here.
okay. And
Um,
then, okay, go ahead. I also wanted to clarify the rental. The very first thing that was said was like, who rented it? You're the renter? Well, what was I supposed to say? I'm not the owner. You know, I'm not the renter. I mean, they threw that word out there is why it got thrown everywhere, is what I wanted to clarify, because I would never said it. He said it. Who rented the house? Well, I was given the house for, 4 days or something, but that's where that rental just kept going, flowing, because the officer is the one that brought that up. He was he going to say, what was I going to say? I'm a friend, I don't own it, I don't rent it, I'm just here, she let me have it for a couple days. And I had some friends that were there when the sheriff did come, so I don't know what they said, because they don't know mine and her, relationship. I invited them.
Can I?
Please. Well, let's make
Again,
sure,
according to-
do you have anything else to say before we
No,
questions?
I just
Okay.
wanted to clarify
I
those
just
two
had a-
things, pretty much.
Okay, I just had a question for you. According to the police report, they spoke to the people that were making the noise. And again, they referred to it as a rental, but they also said we've rented for 3 or 4 years or something to that effect. And a lot of people rent, off the books to their friends for a very reduced price. So it's really not unusual, but I just take it really seriously when the police have to come, because to me, that's a pretty egregious violation. So I think we're talking about semantics here, and we weren't there, so we have to go by what the police report says, would be my thinking, and I don't know what the rest of you guys are thinking, but and that's all I have.
3 or 4 years, that's because it's the same group of people that I go once a year, and it's the same group of people, that's why that was said. They've
Okay.
been there with me the 3 visits.
Do you want to clarify, or?
I just want to ask if this is helpful at all, but the account that Gina gave us when we immediately called to find out what happened, and the egregious, I think there's a bit of a break even with what happened in.
Because I wasn't there.
Okay, I mean, I don't know, sorry, I was told that the officer that showed up, and this, Gina, you speak to this, because you were the one talking to him, but he made this seem like a warning
The last thing he
that
said.
there was no real formal
Then
complaint
he
lodged.
said, his words were that he's not filing a complaint. He's not filing a complaint. Okay, just keep it down to, last thing he said was, okay, everything's under control, and he left. And it was going no further. He said there was not going to be a complaint filed.
I agree, the sheriff has obviously been trained by the Chamber of Commerce. I hope you're having a great vacation, and we all do. We hope you had a great vacation. You hope to come back. That's how our economy makes money. Good, and then we'll move around.
Okay. I think the citation part had to do with a noise complaint through Douglas County. And there's probably a noise ordinance that, you would know better than me, Mr. Ritchie, but so the complainant didn't sign a complaint as far as through the sheriff's office, but the sheriff's office has a relationship with the vacation rental department, and they have to pass on violations to us. And his final paragraph in the report says, based on my investigation, this incident was a violation due to the amount of noise. And it goes on.
There was 5 people there when he showed up. They were all in the pool. That's why the door wasn't heard. How many's allowed there? I've had 9 people. This was 5 people in the pool with the complaint, I guess with music. But I thought we weren't arguing.
Yeah, we're not
music.
arguing the complaint, I don't think, we're hearing, but when you had said, the nature of the complaint, it just struck me because I'm feeling like what they experienced and what's being kind of portrayed are two different things. But again, we're not arguing the noise violation, we're arguing where it should have landed for our penalties.
So are you saying that there is no monetary or other compensation that has been given to your friend for the stay?
Correct.
No monetary, no other alternative, no other compensation
Right.
for that time period?
Correct.
What were the dates that you've rented the last 4 years? Same
Um,
time every year?
No,
They were different.
August 1st, was it July 31st? August 1st was 1 year, and the next one was, no, they were all different times. This was the latest, I've never been there in
Depends what was
October.
open in the
Yeah.
calendar.
So-
Yeah,
So on our transcript on page 83, and I'm sorry, Lauren, remain for the record if I didn't say that, renter, and I believe if I look down through this, they are speaking to you, how can we solve, I mean, I'm heading back, so this is you coming back from the casinos. Is there a way we can solve, this is my friend's house, and I'm just at the casino, and this has never happened before, I've rented it 4 years in a row.
okay, what am I supposed to say? I've had it 4 years in a row?
I've
owned
stayed
it?
there
I've stayed, okay.
4 years in a row. I mean, I'm just,
Yeah, I was
I-
Well,
gonna
like I said, that rent
I'm
was
asking-
thrown out there, and I don't know what else I'm supposed to say.
Yeah.
Because I
No,
don't
no,
own it, and I was borrowing it, or, I don't know.
Well, and to be fair, Lauren, you
On
just
top
said,
of that, I
when
was
did
at
you
the
rent
casino.
it? Like, we've just made it very clear that it's not, and then you said.
you're absolutely.
Let's keep the conversation with the
Yes.
person at the podium, that's
I'm
why,
saying how-
that's why I wanted to keep it this way.
Yeah.
If you have, we're going to give plenty of time. If you want to come up and clarify anything after this dialogue, you're more than welcome to it, but let's keep it between the person at the podium and the people up here, okay?
I do understand that I did say that. I didn't say how many times, or what dates did you stay there beforehand. I guess I'm coming from the part that I'm reading this saying that we've rented it, and I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought now. So, would you sign basically an affidavit saying that there's been no compensation of any kind for the times that you, if we had
Yes.
something drafted?
Yes.
You can swear under oath right now if you want it, under penalty of perjury.
Okay. Do you have a wording for something like that where, I mean, basically, it doesn't have to be monetary compensation, it can be any
Yeah.
compensation for that time.
But then I was cleaning her house, and then I get your place, something like that. That's what you're saying? But that wasn't the case. That was an example.
I can swear in if you want.
That would be, I would find that helpful.
Could you
I've only
raise
done
your
it once.
right arm, please?
Not really.
But close enough. State your full name.
Gina Capella?
Do you swear or promise that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You may want to start all those questions for her over.
Okay. Was there any form of compensation, monetary or otherwise, for staying at this house? I'm sorry, I'm not an attorney, for the period of time that you were there this year?
No.
Has there been compensation any time that you have stayed, monetary or otherwise?
No.
For
She's
that-
been generous just to let me have it for a couple of days.
Can I have more questions?
Mr. Wilson?
I just want to say, I totally understand a policeman that's called out there. He sees that there's a permit. He presumes probably it's a rental. So he doesn't say, are you the guests at the house? Or ask them investigative questions about what they're doing there. That's natural. And so you're a friend, assuming that they're not paying rent, you're not going to argue with the cop. I know how I am when I get pulled over for speeding. Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. So I can see a little bit of semantics, that we're trying to judge about whether or not, did she say she had the house, she was only a guest? If the cop said I was doing 65, I'd be, yes, sir. You don't argue with him at that time. And I'm sure it's not the most important investigation he had that night, so he's not going to spend a lot of time there trying to decide whether he should write a citation for the noise ordinance for Douglas County. He already knows it's a vacation home rental, So he's just gonna follow the path of least resistance. So I'm concerned, I have friends as a permit holder. I've had my first grade girlfriend, who's a GYN in Phoenix, up this week, and she's used my house to go skiing every year for the last 5 years. I've never taken a dime, and I'm sure if a policeman showed up at the house and asked her to turn down the music, everything she'd be saying is yes, yes, yes. So if there's not been any compensation, and the policeman is not here to say, yes, I presuppose this, I didn't ask them or investigate whether they've ever paid or yes, I think he just simply made a mistake by not writing him a citation for Douglas County, because there's no doubt that there was some sort of noise violation. But it probably isn't the business of the vacational rental people. If somebody uses their own house and has a violation, as opposed to somebody who's actually doing it on the permit. I'm one of those people that manage my own home, and I have a certain number of rentals, but I live there the rest of the time, and I have people come and visit me. And sometimes I'm not there every day. You know, when my friend comes from Phoenix, I try to come and spend a couple days there, but they're there by themselves sometimes. Not always am I present. So unless we have testimony from the actual policeman who said, are you a renter? And I meant exactly, and she understood, instead of using the word guest, I don't see how we can know the fact. So I don't understand.
We'll have a discussion once we get to a motion.
Yeah.
So, but right now, questions. Do you have any questions?
My only question is she's verified there was no compensation. So in my mind, she was a guest.
Thank you. Okay. So can you describe your relationship with the owner?
We started bowling in a bowling league together 20 years ago, and we still bowl to this day.
And you maintain contact throughout the year?
Yes, I go, yep.
She was at my
I was
70th
just at
birthday
her
party this
birthday,
year. She comes to 4th of
Halloween,
July party.
Christmas, her birthday, his birthday. But we bowl weekly, so
Well, she doesn't
for
anymore. She
years,
heard her.
for years.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Are there questions for her? And would you like to? So what we'd like to do is keep the conversation somewhat organized, and that's why I didn't want you. So, okay, I think no more questions for the guest.
Oh, no,
Would you like to come back
I'm
up?
so sorry to interrupt. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I'm just trying to keep it orderly, and so it's better if we are talking to one person at the podium. So would you like to clarify anything?
I was simply, so I can stand up if you'd like. I was just trying to point out how easy it is to call it a rental. Like, you know, when Lauren was speaking, it was easy to say, what days did you rent, even though we've all made it clear she was a guest. Like, it's just a terminology we use, and I think that it can get a little caught up. And I spent a lot of time talking to someone at the county after this happened, and they explained to me that the sheriffs are trained to ask things in a certain way so that they can identify whether somebody is a guest or a renter. And I think it was just honestly a misunderstanding, because when you start throwing out renter over and over again, you just say, yeah, yes, yes, you know, kind of like Len was speaking to. So I think this is all becoming pretty clear. I appreciate your guys' time. Hopefully it makes sense now.
Questions for Mr. Strelo?
Lauren Romaine for the record. Can you, and this is a bit off of this discussion, but I was a bit confused over the response from the property, the local contact, and I'm trying to find it in the.
It's early on. I was just reading that.
I think they asked why they weren't contacted. Is that what everyone-
It's on page
It's
69, I think.
just-
Lauren, try to page
I'm sorry, say
69.
it again?
Try 69, that's where I was reading
Okay.
it. Because he's saying there was no
Okay,
noise.
so a complaint came in, it went to DCSO, correct? That DCSO responded. DCSO also knew who made the complaint, or explained that there was noise, correct? And that's where he was talking about the fact that there isn't gonna be, because the person decided they weren't gonna file a formal complaint or whatever, if I don't really understand that, but what I'm not understanding is, then 2 days later, right, because it was the 17th, 2 days later, the 19th, we get something from Steve, and he said, the noise complaint came in during a stay which was occupied by owner's family and friends. There was no partying or loud number of guests or noise at approximately 11:30 Friday, October 17th. Okay, so how did he get notified that there was a problem? Is that,
I don't believe he was notified. I think I don't know if all the correspondence is there, Lauren, but my understanding was when we got the violation, he had originally asked, why weren't we as the emergency contact notified if this was falling under the VHR ordinance? And then I can't speak to why he wrote there was no noise. He wasn't there. He could possibly have known that. But
Well, Lauren, it looks like on the bottom of page, to me, it looks like to me, the bottom of page 69 is when they notified them, and then that was his response. So it's in kind of reverse order. The email right below it from code enforcement, this report, excessive noise, pool activity during past 11:30 Friday, reporting party called the sheriff's office, they responded, code enforcement requests a report when it's available, investigate. Do you have any evidence or statements you'd like to provide?
okay, yeah, okay, so it's either DCSO let the VHR know that there was a problem or concern, they're letting the person know, because that does happen. DCO sometimes gets called directly, and that can happen. It
Yep.
is not a guarantee that we will call the emergency contact every time. I'm sorry, Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, Ernie Strela.
Or Dr. Strela, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Dr. Strela, go ahead.
There's another email in here somewhere I was looking for, but it was, I think the sequence is a little bit misunderstood. So I think there was an email from the complainant, the one that called the sheriff on Saturday. I think it was
Okay.
Saturday night.
Yeah,
And then on Sunday night, the complainant sent an email in addition to calling the sheriff a day later to us to let us know that he had called the sheriff.
okay,
And I guess when Rachel was, and that's the part, she may have notified him or sent him an email to the property manager here. It looks like she did.
yeah,
So she sent this email here that you see on page 69, and then we got a response from Steve Y. I don't know who that is. Steve Y. So he sent it back to us with this response.
okay,
So I think there was one email missing,
gotcha.
but it's in here somewhere. I don't know.
Other questions for
Not right now.
Mr. Trailer? My question is, the time sequence. Did you understand that the owner was purporting this to be a friend without compensation? And if that was prior to the fine, did you consider, what did you do? Was relying on the police report and the use of renter? Or what was your thought process to say, let's go forward with the fine? Were you aware that this was the plaintiff's position, that this was a friend without compensation and therefore not under the VHR code?
So I'll answer Ernie Strela for the record. So Rachel is the one that caught this case, so she's the one that was working on it. Rachel did come into my office later in the week, I believe it was that week, and talked about, I think we got like a snapshot or a picture of a block out on a calendar. And the account that we got from the manager, I think she talked to the manager, the property manager, or
The local
whoever manages this, whoever she talked to, this Steve Y guy. There was confusion. She was confused about why the police report had stated many times that there was a renter, and then why the property manager was saying that it was not a non-renter or was a family friend. And then there was a debate. We were trying to figure out, well, did they rent it or not? And then we actually talked to AJ in the DA's office. We were trying to figure out, based on the information that we have, because he always beats into our head about evidence. And so when we started looking at all the evidence and all the data that was provided to us, the evidence that indicated that you were a family friend and not renting was very small compared to the seemingly overwhelming evidence of the body cam that we requested from Sheriff Coverly, as well as the as well as the transcripts and the sheriff report. So at that point, we made the decision that that it was a renter. You know, we're also worried about the gray area of, you know, because there's experienced property managers that are in Tahoe that, you know, try to skirt some of the rules. And so being a skeptic of what we hear from the public, especially with the VHR program, and Ellie has been with 4 years, she said, we have heard everything. And so for us, it was better to go this route. We felt that this was a renter based on the information we had in hand, right? And based on the conversations that Rachel had and then the three of us had together with AJ. So we were convinced it was a renter based on what we had, the information at the time. And then we sent the fine letter. So, and that's when we had it, is before we sent the letter. And then after that, we knew it was going to go to appeal. We were just waiting for the appeal. So, because obviously they disagreed with us. So, you know, that's, now we do, what I did mention when we did talk to, when we did talk internally, we do have certain locations, and I think I mentioned this to Lauren when we talked a couple days ago. We do have people that, like on Deer Creek Road and stuff, they send us they routinely send us information when either the owner's flying back into town from wherever they're from, and they're going to stay at the property. We get that in Elks Point. We get that in, you know, around the, you know, people just send us courtesy notes. Because they don't want to get fined. And so if one of their family or friends or whatever that they're giving the house to, not renting, they say, hey, between this date and this date, it's on a VHR. We note that on a calendar. We track that. And so, you know, in this instance, we didn't have, people may not know to notify us either, but it's kind of a courtesy thing for us. So it kind of keeps us away from going through this process. But again, you know, going back to your original question, based on the information that we had, it was overwhelming, you know, when we went through and looked at everything. And you haven't seen the video yet.
So, and maybe we should see the video. So I guess a question of process. Are we in the same shoes as Ernie now with more testimony? Or are we looking to say whether there was a mistake by Ernie? I've been troubled about this since I got the pack, because I could see a logic that this was a family friend. And when I read the appeal, what I expected to see was this was a family friend. Here is an email or a letter from this family friend so stating, here's pictures off my phone bowling with each other for the past 20 years. And I was expecting the appeal to have a bunch of information to prove that this was a friend and not a renter. We've heard that evidence today. So that's where my quandary is, and I would like to hear the video, because I would like to hear the voice inflection, because Glenn, I do agree with you. There are, you know, that was my perception was somewhat similar with a policeman, and about, you know, are you the renter? Well, we're not the owner, so maybe. So I kind of saw that logic. So I guess what I'm saying is, so if there wasn't the friend here today, if there wasn't evidence of that, I think it'd be this. So I guess I'm back to a position. Are we in Ernie's position? Or are we in taking all evidence that's presented today as well? I mean,
Doug Ritchie, the District Attorney's Office. You are sitting as an appellate body, and so you can take testimony. What you should be doing is looking at the code section that was allegedly violated. It's in there. It's 20.62.040.c, and then apply the facts as presented to that. I will state that whether there is a violation or not depends on if there's a violation of the code. A VHR permit is a privilege license, and so somebody that has a normal house isn't subject to a lot of rules.
For instance, their homes aren't inspected by Tahoe Douglas Fire. There aren't regulations regarding fire pits. But once you request this privilege license, there are a bunch of regulations that apply to you and to that property. Under the code, it talks about the VHR owner must use best efforts to ensure that renters or guests of the vacation home rental do not create unreasonable noise or disturbances or violate provisions of the VHR code. The question, it seems, is does a VHR permit owner have to comply with the VHR regulations only if somebody's paying them? Or does it apply to anybody that's staying there? In other words, a renter or a guest. It seems that the argument's being made, well, they didn't pay us, therefore the regulations involving the VHR permit do not apply. They only apply if someone's paying to us. And so your duty today is to look at the code, interpret the facts and the arguments that have been made, and either agree the VHR code applies to guests, or accept their argument and say the VHR code only applies if they're a renter, if somebody's paying for that privilege. I will say this, I try to think of an analogy, liquor licenses. When you get a liquor license, one of the things is you can't serve alcohol to minors. If a bar closed and then after hours they had a party, like a bar mitzvah or something, and they served alcohol, they could still lose their license for serving alcohol to a minor. Even though they weren't paying, it was after hours, the bar was closed. So the question for you is, do you think the code applies in those situations where it's just a guest and no one's paying? And that is as you guys have discussed, that's a good question.
I understand what you're saying, but I have to comment. The liquor store is never lived in half the time by the guy that owns a liquor store, and only a liquor store over Christmas and the holidays. So this is a very different thing. And I will say that I really agree with what Ernie's done. I think it's his job to be skeptical. We have to be very careful of the gray area, and sometimes the prosecutor has to err on the side of bringing this to find out what happened. But the crux to this, to me, is we don't have the policeman here. He chose to use the word renter instead of guest. He kind of pushed that, and I understand how people are when there's a policeman. There's no evidence that there was compensation that's presented. And having it booked on a calendar, when my friend Nina comes from Phoenix to go skiing, I have it blocked so I don't get requests from Airbnb. I mean, this is not evidence that there was a payment. And my feeling is when you live in the house like I do and you have friends over, it's not a VHR then. And if I had a party, not like Cleve's doing the men's club down the street, and neighbors complain, and I wasn't renting, I should get a citation from the sheriff for violating a noise, but I wouldn't want a call to go to Ernie and say, I was a bad neighbor, okay? We're still your neighbors, even the ones that have permits that live here. I think that Ernie's doing the right thing, but I think unless you have evidence of compensation, this is somebody's house. And the sheriff didn't apply maybe enough effort to this investigation, just like when they stop you for a traffic violation. This is not a murder case. They're gonna just try to do their job and get out of there and do something important. So there's no evidence there was compensation. So my mind is, it's just, we don't have jurisdiction over this for this particular thing. But I would agree with Ernie 99 out of 100 times doing this to find out, because there wasn't the proper investigation at the time, and I think the policeman probably assumes everyone with a permit is a renter.
And Lauren, I'll let you re-raise your hand, and I'll come back to you. Right now, we're getting information, and to me, what I foresee after this is we'll go to public comment, and then we'll bring it back to the board. And in that board is the question you're at. And I think we're going to have two. I see this as two things. One, do we have sufficient evidence that there was not compensation? Okay.
And trying to prove you're innocent. That's not
Hold on.
required of the law.
Okay, but you can debate that a little bit later, not right now. So let's figure out, do we have enough evidence for any way that there was or was not? What's the preponderance of evidence show us? And then we will come back. If that is decided, then we need to come back to, I think, the more fundamental question. Does a VHR permit then apply when it is not rented? So I think that was inherent in your question. I think you were saying it should not be. When it's rented, it's rented. When it's not, it's not. You could, I don't have a permit, and if I brought in guests, my guests now are different than your guests if we reach that. So we'll handle both those issues when we have a
Like, are
conversation.
they gonna charge you $20,000 for having friends over because you don't have a permit, like you're acting like a VHR, even though you don't have the license? No, it goes both ways.
Let's defer that conversation until we get to a board. Right now, this is finding information.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll discuss that later. Lauren?
I will re-raise my hand at the proper time.
I am sorry to be such a stickler. I mean, sorry. Yes, and you don't need to come to the thing. Just state your name before, because we do have a recording.
Thank you, Michelle Scala. I just wanted to speak to actually what Ernie was saying. I actually spoke to Rachel right after we got the violation and we were made aware what was going on, and spent a lot of time understanding the process, how they came to this decision, what needed to be done really to come here and let you guys know. We understood it, kind of how Glenn is saying, that if it's not a paid rental person, it doesn't fall under this jurisdiction. It's the only reason that we're here, right? The other part of this is, she let me know from here forward, which I didn't know before, that I could email her the dates that we block for owners or guests moving forward. That way, they knew to stay out of it, right? So that tells me, if she's asking me to start doing that, to do my due diligence, to make this process easier, that tells me that there isn't even a question of whether or not, when a guest isn't there, we should be, held to the same accountability standards as our permit rentals. So I just wanted to let you know, I mean, we try to do everything the best that we can, and we're, I spent a lot of time, I do spend a lot of time on the phone with the county trying to make sure we are. And after this violation came through, I did. And I do know what to do moving forward so we don't end up in this situation of confusion of who's there and not there. But unfortunately, I didn't know that process prior. So
I just wanted to state that,
If you could state your name. We have a recording going on, so sorry.
okay, Nancy Loudwood's the owner of the property. And
It would be helpful if they stand because it's being recorded.
Oh,
so
okay.
you can see.
Sorry.
no problem. I gotta write my name anyway.
We know how spry those bowlers are, so we're not concerned about making you stand up.
hang on by a thread.
But
counts.
when I see, I just said it. Okay, when I let Gina stay, which she stayed like 4 years or 5 years, 4 years in a row, she was saying, I'm the one responsible. But she said rent. I rented it, I'm on the contract, I'm the one responsible. Mainly to cover my ass, because she was there free of charge, and she didn't want me to get in trouble. And I had no idea about the difference between, the county, the VHR board, or whatever. And this is the first time I've ever had this kind of problem too. And I've owned it since 19. So that's where all the renter stuff came in, kind of. And besides that, that's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
Good.
Please.
Can I ask a few questions? The property is owned by IMI Paiute LLC, and that's
Yes.
the permit holder.
That's me.
Could you explain your relationship? Can you confirm that that is in fact the owner of the property and your relationship to that business?
To the business?
Yeah.
Well, we put the LLC in, works for,
She's the sole owner of the LLC. The LLC is in place to protect our other assets.
yeah.
And that's why it's in the IMI property.
So you are the sole owner
Yes.
of IMI Paiute?
Yeah, investing Michelle's inheritance.
Okay. And so you're the Secretary of State lists the manager as a trust, the Nancy Lebowitz
Please.
Revocable Trust, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And you were the trustee of that trust?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And then just one other question. what paperwork do you make your friends sign when they come and stay at your property?
Zero. When it's a
Yeah,
friend,
really.
we have zero.
I've never made anybody sign anything.
Okay, because I thought you'd mentioned earlier that they had to sign some sort of release to protect yourself, or there's some
Should.
paperwork.
That'd be good, though.
We were rethinking a few things, Mr. Ritchie.
Yeah.
So,
I've never had a friend, when a friend came up and stayed at my place, I've never had them sign anything. I block it beforehand so that the dates are available, and that's about it.
just one other question. Do you have other friends? Are there other people that stay?
Yes.
How many are there?
Well, it varies, like maybe I'll have 2 guests stay for the year, the whole year. 2 guests that stay without paying. Everything else goes through Airbnb, and she knows all that. But I try not to be involved too. And I have actually a comment. How do you control people that are staying there? You know, we have things posted in 3 different areas and all the rules, but you can't control what their noise is going to be or how late they're going to do it. And as an owner, I'm responsible for that.
That's why the county issues permits, because if you don't do a good job of controlling it, then you lose that privilege.
Yeah, that's why we're here, so we don't get the ding.
And that is why we're here.
Can I ask a legal question about that?
I'm not your legal counsel, but feel free.
No, I mean, so when we get a noise violation and it's a VHR renter and the police come and then it's handled right away and those guests are now made, quiet down, you can't do this anymore. Why is that? Is that being pursued, or is it just the fact that there's a violation at all, that they were noisy after 10 p.m. and that's the issue? Sorry, does that make sense what I'm trying to ask?
Yes.
Okay.
I think you're asking, well, to answer your question, there are 2 parts to this. If there wasn't a VHR permit, you're still subject to criminal code for public nuisance noise violations, which was alluded to earlier. And I think that's what the deputy may have been referring to. There's not going to be he's not going to file a criminal complaint. But there's a second aspect to this, the civil part of it, which is you have a privilege license. Just like, I'll go back to my liquor store.
I completely
If
understand.
there's a big fight there, there'll be criminal complaints. There's also, are we going to pull your your liquor license? So that's the 2 parts to this. And I understand your questioning, well, why did it go through VHR? Because there is not a criminal complaint being pursued, but there is a question whether you violated county code regarding noise in VHR properties.
Yep. And to mention something you asked and for you, it is irrelevant but disturbing that your property manager said nothing was going on. Because, we don't define a best practice. We don't define a bare minimum, but many people use noise monitors. And if you I don't know if you have a noise monitor or you don't.
We don't.
You might think about it, because it's interesting that the property manager said nothing was going on. It makes it sound like he had a noise manager. And if you had the amount of noise that I've read about, it was amazing that a noise monitor somewhere didn't go off saying it's 11:30 at night. It is so loud, people can't hear the front door being knocked.
Well, if you knew our house,
Okay.
you could be downstairs quiet
Okay.
as a mouse and not hear the
Yeah,
front door.
but you would think music at the pool would set off a noise monitor at 11:30. Again, completely irrelevant to this finding, but I guess I was coming back to what am I supposed to do? Because I do understand the difficulty. I rent to people. I don't necessarily know all of them. What am I supposed to do? What is my...
Well, I guess what I was trying to say with the complaint, I don't believe in, again, because we've never sat in this seat in the last 3-4 years we've been, if a guest does get a complaint, I think it is handled pretty immediately. I don't think that this is an ongoing, they're recalled, which is why we're not sitting here all the time, right? So I was just trying to understand the process, I guess, a little bit more of how we ended up here today. Because I guarantee, probably my neighbors behind me can speak to this, that we've had the cops called on our VHR renters in the past. I can only
Yeah,
imagine.
when we first moved in, the gentleman that lives next door to us, they said complaints about everything. You know, so be aware, he's only here a few weeks a year, but when he's here, he'll complain about it.
Thank you.
We got prepped for that. So I just wanted to understand, in my view, wow, we ended up going really far with this one, but how did the other ones were okay?
To answer your question, it's been alleged that you violated Douglas County Code 20.622.040.c, specifically subsection 6 regarding noise. That's why you're here today.
Okay. So that's, so there has never been a formal noise complaint in the past 4 years. And that one was lodged, and that's why we're here today.
I can't speak to any prior complaints, only on your appeal of this particular violation.
Sorry, I was just trying to understand.
And we would not want to know, you are, this is a single event
Yes.
that we will rule on today.
I'm not trying to make it any worse. I'm just trying to understand the process. That's
Gotcha.
all.
All right.
Yeah, and we're not disputing that there probably was a noise ordinance that they went too long, too loud, whatever. We're just disputing the fact that it should have been not a VHR business thing.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any more questions to anyone before we go to public comment? And then my plan is to have public comment. We'll bring it back for a board conversation. Then we'll move to a motion and a vote. Okay? Any public comment about this matter, about agenda item number 2, please step up to the podium, and if you would sign your name, but also we do have an audio recording. If you would state your name, that way the audio recording picks it up.
Can do your timer.
Oh, thank you.
Good afternoon, Cynthia Dalton. I'm one of the behind neighbors, and thank you for coming and listening to your neighbors. We appreciate your input and your consideration because this particular property is a pretty noisy one. So I did a little research and I'm very nervous, so you have to excuse me here. You'd think being a TV host would be prepared for this, but it wasn't. So receiving a vacation home rental code violation while staying in a lone house, often classified as a guest or complimentary stay, can be confusing, as we have all witnessed here. But the liability rests primarily with the property owner, though the tenant, could be responsible for the violation. So the owner is responsible for compliance. Local code departments exclusively issue notices for violations. The owner is responsible, blah, 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 regardless of who is occupying the property. So if the violation was due to noise, excessive trash, exceeding occupancy limits, other VHR violations, the person occupying the house, according to my research, is responsible for the violation regardless of whether you have paid or you are in a loan or guest house permit. So the loaned argument, so even if you didn't pay rent, according to what I have researched, and if you're permitted to stay there, you are considered an occupant authorized by the owner, which means you are expected to follow the same rules as paying guests. So, with that, I completely appreciate your position, but I think it also goes to the point of the liquor license, If it happens under your jurisdiction, regardless of whether I paid rent or not, I am responsible while I'm occupying that house. And sadly, those code violations fall to the owner, which according to research, and I know you don't want to be fined, but it can be passed on to whomever is occupying their property so that you are not the ones that are holding it back. So I just wanted to
30
give you my
seconds.
perspective. Thank you.
Other public comment?
Martin Van Eno, I've already written my name down, do I need to write it again? No. Yes, okay. Being a close neighbor to that property, we moved in, and we live here full-time. we moved in 2021, so it's, and again, thank you for being here. I do appreciate your confronting this face to face. But I have to say, where we are in Round Hill Village on Paiute, our specific house location is surrounded by VHRs. We have 7 or 8 right around us. So the 9% that are in Round Hill Village are all around our house.
We didn't know that when we bought it.
We didn't know that when we bought it. That was not disclosed. Having said that, there is one property where I have had to call multiple times to complain. I've had people screaming and yelling at 4:30 in the morning. I've had people playing Marco Polo in the pool with the sliders open after midnight. I've had people, just being very noisy and irritating. So, Michelle, what's your name?
Yes.
I asked the same question, and why is it that I called 3 previous times, but you never knew about it?
You called them.
And we've called both the VHR program as well as the sheriff's office. And the sheriff's office have always come out and the noise has always stopped. But how come you don't know about that? I think that's a very valid question. And then how do you manage the noise of your renters? That is a really big question, And I don't have an answer to that, but what I can tell you is that we have 0 financial benefit from your rental, but we suffer the consequences of your rental. And I just wanted to let you know that that's the case for us.
And just to clarify, after public comment, we will open the floor back to you so that you can address anything that you would like. So we just want to keep the dialogue precise. Other public comment?
How does that get relayed to the owners so they get those complaints? Other public comment first, and we'll close that if no one else. Okay, would you like to make further comment?
I mean, I actually just wanted to speak to the neighbors. I'm so sorry that you guys go through this. It's not something, sorry, I'm so emotional. I'm a Cancer. No, I'm just kidding. We bought the property existing the way that it is. We did not make it this way. We did not ask for it to be this way. We saw an investment opportunity. We took it. We do care very much about the home. We put a lot of money into the home. We use it as it is our own. We don't want it to be trashed or torn up or anything of the sort. We want it to bring up the value of the neighborhood, not devalue the neighborhood. I realize this has nothing to do with our hearing. I just want you guys to know we do care. And I will have a decibel reader put in immediately so that we can manage that for you a little bit better. And I apologize.
Okay. I'd like it brought back to discussion before a motion. And also feel completely free to change anything. But to me, there are 2 issues. Is there evidence that there is a rental based on the term, the words being used? And then the second thing, do we believe that, and Mr. Ritchie, please correct me if this is wrong, do we believe that the phrase renter or guests includes guests once you have a VHR permit, when you are unoccupying the house, the people you let use it for free, would it apply to them as well? So I think those are the 2 major issues in front of us. And
Just
please.
one, thank you, Doug Ritchie, for the record. There's an initial matter. Do you believe Ms. Leibowitz?
Oh, Scala, Leibowitz.
It has standing to appeal?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, correct. Thank you.
There's the LLC that owns it.
Thank you. Yes,
That
perfect.
whole-
Yeah, so hope one of you has your agenda available. Let's take the first matter. Does the appellate have the standing to appeal?
Yeah, let me get to page 58. I'm not on the right thing, I'm on the ordinance.
Here.
Sorry, I was looking at the ordinance. Okay. I move that we find the appellant IMI Paiute LLC and Ms. Nancy Labowitz have standing to bring an appeal and is aggrieved by the violation and fine of the VHR permit.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, unanimous? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I always forget that. That's why I try, I'm going to start doing it before we start hearing, because I always get so caught up in this, I forget that.
I know, I've already.
So, let's have a conversation again about the two issues. And is there evidence that this is a rental? And then if well, is it a rental? And does the code cover people with a VHR permit who are not in residence and who are letting their friends use it without compensation? Ms. Romaine?
Lauren Romaine for the record. This took a twist today that I guess I didn't expect. And I have to say I'm scrambling with it because it's a different, one of the problems with, and the reason we have an advisory group, is that the nature of vacation rentals in neighborhoods creates a difference in a lot of problems, that concerns and positiveness, a lot of different things, but that need to be managed and handled. I mean, the great question is, how do you handle a renter and keep them? I mean, that's one of the huge problems with short-term rentals. And so, I lose my train of thought already. So, there's reasons that we're here to look at that. I would have to say this whole thing about and guest is a new way of looking at it, and to me, when I read that, because I read that part of the code beforehand, not really putting today's context in it, it's the renter or the person who rents and guests at that time while you are operating as a vacation renter, I think is, to me, because it feels as though it is way too past, it is way overreaching for the county to tell a person who owns a house who's not operating as a business at the time, or not business, short-term rental, under those provisions, what they can and cannot do. And I'm sorry, Glenn made the point of, if he has a friend that comes up and stays, and it is a friend, and they're just staying there, I'm not sure the county should have the right to tell them what they can and cannot do at that point. The opposite side to that concerns me is, we know that there are people who follow rules, and we hope to foster those people in our system. And we know that there are people that will try and get around things. And so I do worry that there's a huge chasm of issues here where, how do you prove whether there's compensation changing hands of whatever kind for that stay? And I do think that we may need to look at this to define that a little bit better, or somehow put some kind of penalty towards lying about that. But it is going to be a difficult, I can see where that exists. And I do not want to do anything that fosters it to become more prevalent and normal. And that concerns me a little bit with this, in saying, no, that's just a bridge too far to go. So that's my feeling on that part.
Glenn?
I agree with Ernie being very skeptical, because, as you said, there's a gray area, but unfortunately, we don't have all the information all the time, and it's our job to either find someone effectively guilty or innocent. And, people in this country don't have to prove they're innocent. We need to prove them guilty. And I respect legal advice, but I don't agree with this analogy about a liquor store. You don't live at the liquor store 300 and something days a year, and then because you have parties there and a license over Christmas and New Year's, the rest of the year, you know, if somebody was 17 had a beer in your house, you know, you'd be in court. So I don't agree with that analogy. By the same token, this committee has fined people for taking compensation who don't have a permit. So in that regard, if you or somebody that didn't have a permit had friends up and all of a sudden they're giving you $500 towards the cleaning, do we have a right to give you a $20,000 fine according to the VHR, even though you don't have a permit and you're not really a renter, but you took compensation? Because I've sat at this place where we gave somebody a $20,000 fine for renting who didn't have a legal permit, okay? So you don't
Can you
think
restate-
about the overreach,
I
but
lost
as a
your-
permit holder, I can say, there's a big difference between when I have a permit and I'm renting as a business and I just have a childhood friend up to come skiing. I certainly don't have an email from her. I don't have any contract. I have a phone call asking Nina, when is she not on call and can come go skiing with me? Okay, so there's not gonna be paperwork like there is for VHR. So I think Ernie needs to maintain the skepticism, because if somebody finds out that somebody just said we weren't really renting, it could cause a future problem, and that may be something we need to deal with. But I don't wanna just assume people are lying to me, you know? I think it's good that they showed up here to defend themselves from the skepticism and took the time because they don't want a violation. And part of that for me is, I think it's generated too much work for Ernie, because when they changed it from 3 violations to 2, everybody is very concerned, because if they get another violation, and I don't know, but I assume if it was still 3 violations, they would have sent a check in for $2,500 and just maybe put in a noise monitor, which they could monitor the noise, because our committee's proved that we don't accept the objectivity of the noise monitor. We take what the policeman says. So it would help the owner, not us so much. So I think we need to just leave it with, when you're running a business, you're gonna have to abide by the rules of the business. But when it's your home, you're just like any other neighbor. And I wouldn't want someone to have to defend themselves to a fine from the VHR committee overreach because they took some cleaning money for somebody that stayed at their house for a week. But technically, they'd be in violation because they got compensation.
Sorry, when you said that, I was uncertain whether you meant whether they were staying with you or not. So in other words, do you see it different if I have a friend over and I'm here and they say, hey, by the way, you know, hire a maid, we were a mess.
Half the time, my friends at skiing are here by themselves. I'm
Okay,
not a
but
big
so
skier.
you would also include that if I had friends when I was not in residence?
Yeah. In fact, my friend Nina showed up before I got back from Mexico. She was at my house with her husband and her daughter, and they were glad I showed up. But you know what? If I didn't have this meeting, I'd probably still be in Mexico. And you know, that's just the truth of it. And I have no proof that I've known her since first grade. Where am I going to find this?
All over. All over, by the
Bring her to
way.
go under oath.
By the way, all over. I mean, you know, I didn't
But
ask
did
because,
they need to provide proof of a friendship? If there's no, we
Well, they
need to
could.
provide proof that it's a rental. And I agree, Ernie needs to be skeptical, and that's his job, because the county's, and opposed to what some people think, that there's no benefit to the other people, that they only have negatives because of this, okay, and that they only pay the price. The county has decided the $5 million is the value to all the residents, and the people at my cleaning lady and the people at the restaurants, and when I have 8 people buying a ticket to the boat ride at Zephyr Cove, the entire economy benefits because we have vacation rentals. This was decided. I think they need to be managed properly, and we have very strict rules. But I'm against our committee being in the overreach like it is. We're not supposed to be anti-VHR. We're supposed to be neutral. And it seems to me like we're frequently anti-VHR.
well, I'd rather not talk about bias. Let's keep it above that. But, so let me ask you, what kind of evidence could the county get to prove it's a rental?
I've sent in my tax information, and they get a check, and when I get my permit, they get a copy of my monthly tax. If they want to do the work and investigate it and figure out if somebody paid on it, they have some work they can do, just like the policeman could have used the word guest and not just presupposed and kind of intimidated people because he's an officer. I mean, there's a big power dynamic. If, you know, I'm not a nobody. I'm an educated person, and I get pulled over by a cop, I'm nervous, okay? If I'm operating on a one-eyed person, I'm nervous. I'm more nervous when the cop pulls me over. So I don't agree that just because the language is suspect, that that's worthy of, oh, well, I'm not going to believe somebody that shows up and speaks to me directly. I know the cops are busy. They're not going to do a big investigation. But we can't hold people accountable and just disbelieve them when they speak to our face and say this was a friend. If you want to act like we can empower the county to judge how people behave when they're not doing rentals, then are we empowering the county to find people when they have friends over that give them cleaning fees? It's the same thing. It's the two sides of the same coin. And I don't think it was ever intended that when people like myself, who manage and live in my rental full-time and only rent it for supplemental income when I'm out of town or when I choose to, that somehow I don't have the same rights as everyone else in my neighborhood. I think that's very overreach. And I think if you want to work on, as a committee, if this is disputed, so that Ernie has a policy where he'll want to check the taxes that were paid that month, you know, but, you know, going by the calendar, when my friend Nina was coming skiing, I blocked it out on my Airbnb. I don't want to be bothered with requests. But there's no evidence. I get a phone call. So we can't demand what other neighbors aren't putting up with realistically. We can't just assume people are lying to us. I think that's wrong.
Okay. Vicki?
I just have a few comments. The woman that brought up complimentary hotel, that kind of struck a note with me, because when you're being housed at a hotel for no fee, a comp, or whatever you want to call it, you still have to follow the rules of the hotel. Your question about, you've called on noise multiple times. Unless the noise is verified, there's not a complaint issued. So perhaps when an officer or a code enforcement got there, the noise had already calmed down. And so that's why there probably hasn't been a noise complaint. Noise complaints are really difficult to verify, as my understanding. I keep thinking about the words you used, Mr. Ritchie, that it's a privileged license, and I agree with that 100%. It is a privilege. It's in the first paragraph of the ordinance. Our job is to follow the ordinance to the letter up here, not to, the people that can make changes or say, oh, you know, you don't lose your license because we liked you or whatever, that would be the Board of County Commissioners, not us. Our job is to follow the ordinance. And I was sitting on the fence with it until Mr. Ritchie read renter or guest. And that's where I now feel like guests need to follow the rules, whether they're paying guests or non-paying guests. I always refer to anybody, whether they're a renter or not, as guests in my neighborhood when I'm talking about somebody that's renting or staying, because I don't know, so I call them guests. That's all I've got. Those are just my comments.
Vicki?
Yes.
The word guest used with renters or guests, probably, as in my experience, means there's one person that's signing and renting and doing it, but he might be bringing 9 people. Those are the guests. So there's a group of 10, but only one person is the renter, okay?
And that might have been the spirit of the ordinance. I don't know. I'm just making my comments like you did.
Okay.
I'm not telling you how I'm leaning, how I'm
But
voting,
hanging
because
on
I
that
really
one
don't
word
know.
guess to say that people are responsible for their friends at their house, that's a reach.
Simple. I mean, that's right.
Lauren,
Romaine,
for the
that's
record.
right.
So, to me, I see two things. We've got the problem at hand today, and then where do we go forward? And I do think there is an issue at some point that maybe we need to work through, and I'm not sure how to. What I'm hearing here is, it's funny, because if you say to me, my next door neighbor bought this house, has never been here, never comes here, doesn't live here, to me, anybody who goes in that house, I don't care whether they're paying or not, should follow the rules. And I agree with you there. We also have people who live in these homes, and they are their homes, and they do have, I mean, I think we all have people who come to stay at our houses that are family and maybe close friends or something, and to me, I see that as a difference. And it seems as though sometimes it's hard to hold on to the way Airbnb used to be, which was, I have a room that I want to rent out, you know, we all still lived here, we all still cared. I call myself a hybrid because I live here, I have my neighbors, I don't want to make them upset. I'm not like my neighbor who I've never met before, I have no idea who these people are, and they just use it as an investment. So I do think it is something we need to talk about down the road, because I do understand there is a difference in an investment property for a VHR, which I can understand, that is very frustrating when the owner isn't here and that type of thing. There is the other discussion of, you know, I have a nephew that comes and stays, and he's going to be there 2 days before I get home, and now I have to worry that he doesn't follow the same types of rules in my home that, you know what I'm saying. And I think there's a bigger issue here that we're going to have to work through, and I guess where I still am is I'm concerned more of the overreach than, and that we can, I would like to make sure that we have a discussion about this though, and talk about possible options, because I do not like the hole that is there, that where people can start to say, oh, that's just my cousin Joe, and we know that it's not. I don't like that either. I don't like not being able to hold accountable people. Can I, I'm sorry.
Please, no, please.
One other-
I'm trying to avoid talking as long as possible.
Okay, one other quick thing I'd like to say. So the nature of VHRs is very difficult to manage. You have the opportunity, you guys have the opportunity today to hear from your neighbors are here, and it seems like there is a definite concern and problem, some frustrations on your neighbors who have done the right thing and called the county when there's issues and have not gotten a response. It's not your fault, but it is something to be really aware of. And the only way in which VHRs are going to be okay in our area is if we all care enough to make them blend into our neighborhoods just like they would. So you have an opportunity today. Sometimes it's really hard to see an opportunity or something that happens that doesn't seem very positive as a positive, but to me this is a positive for you guys to say, reach out to your neighbors, find out, just like somebody who would live there all the time, and say, what is happening, what is going on, and let me try to abate those problems as much as we can, because people do, I mean, people live here, and they have jobs to do, and they have things to do, and it is not, you know, so it is an opportunity to right the ship and do that. And as far as the people who are having concerns and complaints, I'm sorry if was some issues as far as talking to the county. You have to call the county. You cannot call the property manager. The property manager has no obligation to get back to you at all. The only people they have to get back to is the county. So my suggestion to you is you put the complaint in and then you follow up with it afterwards. And just follow up with it until, I don't know, just follow up with it until you get the resolution, so that you know that it has gotten to the people. So I would
Will.
So-
Just when we did call, we got in the mail, or we got at some meeting, a little refrigerator magnet that we have on our refrigerator, and that's the number we call, and it was the VHR
Hotline, yeah.
hotline, and they said, you know, call the cops, and we did. So each time, and several times, we've done both. So there should be some record. I mean, we give them our numbers, we give them our address, we give them everything.
Let's,
Can you please sign in?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
yeah, let's bring it back. I don't think I've ever been in a meeting that's gone this deep, and I don't know where I am.
Yeah, no.
So I am concerned about the idea of overwhelmingly undisputable proof. There's a renter next door who screams at 2 o'clock in the morning. I am disturbed. The fact they don't scream for 30 minutes till someone can show up doesn't help me. And that is our problem with the enforcement. We have a loophole here that you don't pay your tax before someone comes, you pay it after they come. So there's nothing necessarily that you don't have to file your rentals with the county before they happen. Boy, that'd be really good for these, but it'd be overwhelmingly burdensome for the program. So you get this statement that we're friends, and there's not proof of or proof against. We're never going to prove the negative. We're never going to prove the positive. However, I went through what would happen to me if I thought this was a friend, and I would have had them come or write an email or sign an affidavit, and they did that. I'm unswayed by the note on the manager's thing that is used for private use, because I do that as well. I have a timeshare at Heavenly Village, and when I rent it to other people, I don't want to pay the commissions, I don't want to pay the fees, so I block it for personal use because they're not doing the job to get the renter, I am. And so I always put it for personal use when I'm renting it to someone that I've attracted, because I'm keeping their fees, not them. So I'm not convinced by that. Bowling kind of got me over the edge. I wanted to know if they had a long-standing thing or if a friendship had been developed, because I rented for 3 years, and after a while, okay, I know you, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not convinced that this isn't, follow the logic, I believe this is a friend rental. A friend occupancy.
See how easy it is to use that word.
Yeah. By the way, I mean, just back at you, saying that she signed, I mean, I know you might be trying to keep people out of trouble, but that applies to today as well. Now, she did go under oath today, but I understand someone saying I'm a renter because they don't want someone to get in trouble, but that also says what they'll say so people won't get in trouble. So I am down to, does the code cover a property when it's not rented because of the VHR code? When I read the code, my common understanding was similar to yours. There is a renter who signs the contract. There are guests who are in the home at the time of the rental, and it did not apply to the rentals. Now, in my facetious nature, it's almost like I would like this to be appealed to the county commissioner so that they would have to have an opinion on that. Because I think that is the crux of this matter. Does this code apply to people with rental permits? And I wouldn't say when I'm there and it's just a guest that's spending the night with me or a week or a month with me. That's different than I'm allowing people to stay there. But I never had that assumption. I believe if we polled the people who have VHR permits, they would not have said that. Lauren, I mean, it is a complicated issue, and when the county commissioners tell us to do this, we can spend a couple of years debating that, because I also see the logic in that. If I am primary the resident, and I rent some, and then a guest comes, I see that as a guest, not a renter. If this is an investment property, and it's primarily to rent, I could see where those people are more likely to be treated under the code than not. I mean, so there's just all this nuance to this. So I still don't know how I'm going to vote. That's why I'm going to wait on a motion.
Good luck to you.
You want a motion?
Motion it away.
I make a motion that Ernie remove the fine and not count this as a first violation.
And do we need to get all the legalese
It's right
about
here.
the permit in your motion?
There's
No.
proposed language and,
There's a 1, 2, and 3.
Thank
yeah,
you.
you can choose. It's like a Chinese menu, you can pick.
So could you, I think.
I'm
what
not trying to read on my phone.
No, no, I think what you're saying is you are motioning number 3. So
I'm
you just read it.
asking that the decision be rescinded and the returning of the $2,500 fine. That's my motion, and I hope somebody seconds it.
I'm going to second it for discussion purposes.
I was about to do the same thing. Okay. So we have a motion and a second discussion.
2 avenues, Douglas County, if it's me and I have a noise complaint from my neighbors because I have a ukulele party on my deck. I think it's random, it's true. Anyhow, and so what is the process there? Obviously, the neighborhood was disturbed at this night. Okay, what, we're saying what? Somebody is not filing a complaint and not pressing charges or not, whatever it is, so therefore there's nothing there for the county to do?
Chair, if I may.
Please.
Doug Ritchie with the District Attorney's Office. If you're just a regular homeowner and you're having a ukulele party and one of your neighbors complains, they would call up DCSO and they would come out just like they did in this instance, and they would file a report. If the deputy felt that, you know, it was loud, then they would go ahead and file a criminal complaint, and then you'd have to, usually it's a fine, but you'd have to
It'd be
respond.
like a ticket, right?
It's like a ticket, yeah.
Yeah.
In reading the body cam transcript there, it sounded like because the neighbor wasn't pressing charges or something, that nothing would happen on the Douglas County side.
Yeah.
Dr.
So maybe some clarification. So the dispatch at DCSO has a list of all the VHRs. And so when they go to their house, whether there's a guest or not a guest, or however you describe it, ukulele parties with a guest, or they go there thinking it's a VHR, because they have a VHR list.
Right.
And then from there, they may not violate you, they may violate, but what they do is because it's a VHR, they will forward your ukulele noise to code enforcement, and we'll go through the same process again.
Right, but let's just say private citizen having a noise complaint through Douglas County, neighbor calls, I mean, you can tell it's never happened to me before, so what happens there? Does the neighbor have to file a complaint, or can basically the sheriff do the same thing? I showed up, it was really loud, it violated the Douglas County ordinance, and so therefore
Well, they can sign the
The
complaint,
sheriff just issues a ticket.
so is that a possibility here?
not for us.
No, I
What
understand.
when they came out to the house, I think the sheriff decided not to proceed with a non-VHR violation criminal. They chose to write a report up and forward it over to VHR to investigate.
Can I ask a clarifying comment? They chose not to, or the person complaining chose
Well,
not
it sounded
to?
like according to this particular item, I don't
Yeah.
know about your ukulele.
Okay,
But according to this one, they chose not to file a county complaint,
The
non-VHR
complainant or the sheriff?
the complainant.
Okay.
That's what it says in the police report.
That's the way I understood
That's
it
what
as
they
well,
wrote.
that they had talked to the complainant.
Yeah, there's
And the
no
complaint
question
says, I
about
don't want to sign an official
Right.
complaint.
But what they did is they did forward it to us, and they did stipulate many times that it's a VHR complaint, right? The VHR may do something about it. So, and it is, because we have enhanced penalties for that.
And I agree
Right.
with that. I think it's wonderful the sheriff looks and if it is a VHR, I think it's perfectly fine to
Yeah.
assume that it is a VHR. I think it's incumbent upon the owner to explain otherwise. And so
Right.
I'm perfectly
Right.
fine with that process. I just didn't know if there was still, because obviously there was a disturbance to the neighborhood. And I know it's not our purview to do it, but I was just curious as to whether there was still something open on the Douglas County side.
That's your limitations. They could go back and give them a ticket if they want. That's not our business.
You talk a lot about tickets over there.
Experience.
A complainant could still, I don't know when the complaint was issued, but the complainant could go down tomorrow after watching this meeting and decide to file a formal complaint. I'm not advocating that, you're asking a question.
Right, no, okay, thanks.
Other,
Mickey Hempler, is it possible, I assume the appeal on the complaint is basically because you don't want a complaint on your record. I would assume that's why you're going through these hoops. Is there a way, and it's not something we've ever done before, but to not put it on the record as a complaint, but still charge a fine?
No,
Okay.
it's either, you have to follow the law. Either you find there was a violation or you don't.
I kind of knew the answer, but I wanted you to say it. Okay, thank you.
I would just, I guess, Lauren, remain for the record, I just would go back to this is an interesting case. It's an interesting, opens up a lot of interesting windows and doors and things I'm not sure I want open, but it is what it is, and I think we have to look at it. But I would say, and I go back to when the ordinance was written, I would 99.9% renter and guest was while that's being rented, and never could we contemplate the thought of that property afterwards.
and Glenn, you would agree with that? That was your perception as well. When you read the
Yeah.
code, and Mickey, was that your perception, or was it?
And I've been a renter for years, and I'm on the board, and I would never assume that it meant a friend. I would assume it was like, you always have one person that's like the contact renter, and everyone they bring is on the list at Airbnb as guest. That's what they're called.
As a non-permit holder, I read it differently, but I think we come from different lenses, of course.
Okay.
Is it renter and guest or renter for guest?
Oh, I have to go back and look at it again.
I'm not sure it changed.
I think it
changes
said renter
the-
and.
Renters or guests.
I don't think it changes it for me. It's,
Because the guests are still responsible to the renter and to the VHR
Yeah.
while they're there.
Yeah.
That's my
and
interpretation.
I think if we want to go in that direction, then we recommend to the Board of County Commissioners that we basically make a statement that says, anytime, once you have a permit, you must comply to this, all, just, I think we should be straightforward enough with that, if that's the case.
'Cause-
But it's not in there, and I'm not sure it's.
Because to me, and/or made a difference. And or implies it's not necessarily associated with it. But I still go back to when I've never considered this to be outside the purview of the rental period. Well, although, sorry, there are things outside the rental period. I mean, your trash collection and all of your inspections, and there's a massive amount outside that, but I've never thought about the noise being outside. Are we ready to vote? The motion is to
Number 3.
rescind. All those in favor?
I want to abstain.
Okay. To me, okay.
Can I explain why?
Yeah, I'd prefer that because normally we
I-
want to abstain when we have a conflict or a bias.
I don't have a conflict or a bias, I just have a definition issue, and as you've done many times, I could be persuaded, but I don't think we need to go into the weeds anymore on this, so I'd rather just have more time to think about it if this comes up again, and be more prepared to make a vote. So that's why.
Yep. I am concerned about the loophole we're opening up.
I am too.
But we have a very good guardrail, Ernie, 100% of the time.
I don't think you've ever supported an Ernie recommendation to date.
That we're not going to have a loophole just because we did this today. I
No.
think people are on notice that we're very suspicious.
Okay. All right, so the motion has been approved to rescind. Agenda item number 3. Shall we take, let's take a 12-minute break, come back at 3?
Okay.
No.
Oh, I was just
are better than others.
Yeah, of course, I got all this correspondence.
That's okay.
3:04.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Warriors game's coming on soon, let's go.
Oh, Glenn told me he was going to the head, and I said, okay.
Okay.
I had to tell him to. I said, you have a hard one. You are.
I feel like I know.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. You were, you know what, your testimony was fantastic.
Sorry, I lost it.
Happy flying.
We should never hear again.
Enjoy San Diego.
Thank you, I can't wait to get back, I'm so cold.
Yeah, my son lives in Mission Bay.
I'll talk to you later.
I'll let you know.
All right, let me call the meeting back to order.
I'm gonna have to,
Go ahead.
I was just, I had Katie with me today, so
Okay, I'll squeeze
with
in
that
there.
fun county card.
Okay.
Let me call back to order, the meeting back to order. Agenda item number 3 for possible action, discussions on plans, goals, priorities for the Douglas County Vacation Home Rental Advisory Board during the 2026 calendar. We've talked with the county commission. The best thing for the program is to have rules that are consistent, and then occasionally they'll want to entertain things, to look at how the program is not working. So we really wanted to talk about are there things that we want to discuss? There is the potential at some point in time they'll have some amendments to code, but there's also really things that we can discuss if we think something is a good idea. And Ernie being in the room can perhaps benefit from those ideas. So we'll obviously have to hear appeals throughout the year. But in other words, otherwise than that, we really want to talk about, are there some things that we've identified that we want to talk about to start thinking about potential changes to the code? So I'll open it up.
Lauren, remain for the record. So first of all, I think the goal is not to make recommendations for any changes to code. I think we need to sit for quite a while.
Yep.
What I wrestle with is, a couple of times now, I'm trying to think, at least 2 or 3 times, we're under the gun to present code language and understanding in a very quick period of time. So what I'd like to do is keep the door open to discussions when things arise, so that we can take the time to research certain things, so that when we do get there, or maybe keep a list of what needs to be tweaked, and I'll give you an example of that. I think we do not need, although I don't know, and I want to get research from neighborhoods or whatever, I'm not exactly sure how to do it, that we need parking permits in single-family residential areas. We do need them in common resource communities. It's a definite must, and so I think that's important. But if we could fine tune the code sometimes and then not have certain things that they're not being enforced properly. I don't know yet. I don't know how to have those discussions, yep. So.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Yes.
Yeah.
What I can do, I'm looking at the code right now, and what I may suggest, not to change it, not right now.
Yeah.
But what we can do is we can keep a running script of opportunities, right? We talked for 2 hours today about one already. Maybe there's a clarification there.
Yeah.
So we have this here, and I can keep a master copy and bring it to each meeting with the same markups, and if you guys think of things, in the shower, you come here, you talk about it, and as a board, you guys want to consider, you know, a future change, we can make a little notation in this, in the master copy here, and that'll be available to you guys, or whatever, at a board meeting. And then at some time in the future, whenever that future is, you know, when we are doing code changes, it's the best time to do those things. And then we can kind of check the box of those changes.
Yeah. Can I ask you, like, on this one, even though I live here, but I know that my experience where I live is different than Glenn's experience and where he lives, but I don't know that Glenn and I could even know enough to propose the change to say we don't need parking permits in a single-family residence. How would we, as a group of people who are supposed to give the Board of County Commissioners recommendations, how would we research, I guess, how would we even, just because it's my opinion that it's
in
not.
my neighborhood.
What's that?
I mean, it's just a waste of printer ink. I mean,
But
they
there may
take them
be-
to the, and it's never gonna come up. But it's like if somebody didn't have it displayed, I'd be getting a $500 fine because they did it on their own, or it fell out at the Safeway and they didn't pick it up. I'm like,
Yeah.
I think it's just, to use your earlier word, it's kind of overreach that everybody needs a parking permit. They already have rules about parking and garbage and everything. So,
So
So
let's
my-
let's not talk about this
Yes,
issue,
but
let's
my
talk
point-
about how the process would
But my
work.
point is how, just because that's Glenn's opinion, just because I have an opinion, maybe it is, but I don't know that, like, would we look at you guys and they say, look, how many of these times has it come up in a single family? How would we be able to, because I mean, I'd like to have a code that is streamlined, consistent, clear, as much as possible. And of course, that's a difficult thing to do all the time, but that's, I don't know that I need an answer on how we would do it, but I do think that's one of the things that I would.
Big Ernie has to synthesize the comments and make recommendations. And that, you know, with or without the board's approval, because you're doing it full time. You probably know best. For me, I'm like, as a renter, I think the parking passes are kind of superfluous for what I do. I think probably it would make your life easier if it was 3 strikes and it was out, if they'd ever reconsider that. And I think as a renter, I think I would hope in the future that the application for the permit process got easier a little bit, maybe simpler as time went on. Even my medical license renews for 2 years at a time, okay? And I think it just seems like it's complicated. I gotta take another test, it's not as easy to do as it should be for what we're actually doing, in my mind. So, but that would have to come from your office going, I think we can make the application a little bit simpler next year. Maybe we can make some changes. Because even if you got the wrong answer on the test, it doesn't matter, everybody's passing or they've lost their permit and they still have the same rules to follow, even if they got the wrong answer on that one.
Or enrollment for the record. So we're just talking the process. I don't expect to fix any issues here today. But, I mean, the other one to me, and just as an example of, living up here, I hear all the time about scooters and those line bikes and how they are in waterways. They're left in waterways. They're left on the side of 207. The people are driving on 50. There's no lights on them. You're just about ready to hit them.
Scooters.
And that they're then left in a lot of residential areas. This isn't part of code, but at the same time, being an advisory board and hearing these things, I'm not sure what we do with that. And I think it's interesting that Lime Bike is not licensed in the state of Nevada. Well, why do we, because it's giving VHRs a black eye with the fact that these things are left and strewn about or whatever it is, and so it is something that affects our program. So it's things like that I wouldn't ever, I'm not sure, I'm not proposing what the answer is, I'm not saying it's problem, I'm just bringing it to a group of people where we should, to me, should be able to have the dialogue to then discuss where we go from there.
Yes, please.
Ernie, for the record, maybe I can help. So we're doing Title 20 updates right now. So some of this stuff like line
Line bikes?
I'm not, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know if those are county-wide issues. Maybe should go in the regular code. I don't know. But these are things that what I was talking about, which just some ideas, and when you want to get to a whiteboard discussion or have folks show up and help you, or however you want to do it, we can kind of take the ideas that you synthesize over a period of meetings, and we can talk about them at the appropriate time. And I would just suggest that you're not limited to this. Like if you think about them outside of the meeting, send me an email. I can put it with this stuff. There's people here, there's people maybe watching that have ideas too. We can add all that stuff in there, and at the appropriate time, you guys can have those discussions.
Because I don't want to
might go into Title 20 too.
I don't want to use the word overreach. I just want to use the word burdensome. There are certain things that I question whether the burden is beneficial, right?
Is there enough value?
Right. And so, using only as an example, not to discuss it, but, parking permits are vital in my community. We have to, because it's a shared resource, we have to know how many people are in this unit and are taking up parking spaces. And so it's vital in ours. If it is on in your driveway, I'm not sure it matters. We could get some data, had there been complaints about it or not? But is there, I don't know if we can ask.
We've sanctioned people for driving in the garage because it was an extra car. I mean, the parking permit is just, maybe it's important to an apartment complex or a condo association. But for the people that are in a single-family home where, there's no real close neighbors or anything, it's kind of like, I don't even like the idea of being at risk if they forget to put the permit in there. I got enough problems with them driving back to the airport with my remote control for the garage.
Yeah, so let's talk about process. How do we get a list? Is it just us going through the code? Is it insight you've gathered from talking with VHR permit holders? But I'd like a list of those things that people see as burdensome. And we may say, we disagree. We think the burden is worth it, or the burden isn't worth it. But to me, that's kind of one of the big things. And again, whether the code applies to guests, that's the.
And let me just say, I can, Lauren Roman for the record, I can see if you want to go that way, and you say that, like, right at the beginning of the whereases and all that kind of stuff that the lawyers love so much, is just like, if you have this permit, these rules apply to you 365 days out of the year, and I think we should put that there. If not, then I do think we do need to look at that big gaping hole, because the more people say, well, just say you're, then we've got a problem. And I think there may be some things we can tweak in the code that say that basically if you misrepresent the situation to which you've got, then there's a fine there too. So there are just certain things that I think we can help to fix that situation.
Okay. Others?
I have one more. We're just, I was telling about the argument AJ and I had about the subject you were talking about.
Yeah.
I never would suggest that you go through 20 pages of code and just micro read it and decide what to change. I think it's been changed enough, but if there's stuff that's like as we go through the process and we think about things that are, whether they're administrative issues, because we have a few things that we think about and administrative wise about all the pictures you upload and all that stuff, and it's like, do we really look at these things, And so but like parking permits, placards.
Yep.
I think that's we've thought about that too. And I think that those are kind of the things that you're thinking of, and I think I'm thinking of too, is like if we look at these big things that would make a material difference, that we're really not, honestly, like we're not always looking at placards and stuff like that. I mean, we get a call about a parking issue, we deal with the parking issue. We don't drive around looking, they don't have a placard, let's give them we haven't done that, right? It's not useful work, it's of our time.
Yep.
Right, so I think that's a really good discussion. I think there's others that you guys we haven't talked about, you'll think about.
So should we, how do we move this forward? So should we, I
So
want
as
to
you
make
go.
sure we're not violating open meeting law by us having these conversations amongst ourselves. So can we all send you our suggestions of things we may
Directly,
think
okay.
about? But feel free to add things you think we should be talking about. And that would kind of get a list that we could then start allocating. You know, I don't think anybody wants to go to 4 or 5 o'clock anymore.
No, but what I
or
can do
much
is
less
I can take
midnight
the
anymore.
information that you have provided directly to me individually.
Yeah.
Not to the crowd.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I can add the markups to the packet when we have our next meeting, right?
Cool.
And then that'll be our running total is what's in the packet, because the public has to see it at the same
Public
time.
will see it.
When you
When they do talk about the code or the Board of County Commissioners are open to it, I'm kind of concerned about homeowners insurance, which has gotten more
Yeah.
attention lately.
Well, that's
I
another
was
one you send
dropped
me.
like 4 months ago, 5 months ago from who I had insurance with since '98. No paid claim or anything like that. They just decided, you know what, there's just too many houses in Lake Tahoe that we have insurance with, it, farmers or whatever, we're getting rid of everybody. And it was very hard. The first person I contacted wanted 15 grand on my place for a year policy. I'm like, I finally got State Farm to issue me by having the fire department condemn a few trees with branches close to my house. They said, if you get rid of some of these limbs and stuff, then we'll give you, but it was hell. You know, it's like, what do you do if you don't have insurance? You almost have to sell your house.
You moved to
So-
Gardnerville.
I think that they're just,
My son was canceled as well.
nobody has more impetus to keep their house safe than the homeowner.
Yeah.
And the insurance isn't to pay the county anyway, they just really want to be notified apparently, which my new insurance company said, oh, we'll add them as a notification for $10 or something. But it's very difficult to, you know, they have all these new regulations on the code about your insurance has to do this and say that, and the amounts. I'm like,
Yep.
I don't even think we should have a requirement for insurance on our application. I think it's up to the homeowner. I think they should, it's getting
Well,
harder and
that's-
harder to
that's
get
a- That's a
insurance.
suggestion you should send me, and if you guys can just reference what part of the code you're thinking about, if you know. If you don't know, I'll find it. And then I'll just put it all together, and I'll
Okay.
come up with some sort of red line or whatever.
And then
it is
can we
that I need.
highlight like which ones may need some input? Because just
Absolutely.
because it's a suggestion of mine doesn't mean I
Yeah,
would believe it or vote for it in the
yeah, if
end.
we can help you, or if I can
Okay.
bring an industry, and, you know, we have Heidi here, we have other property managers that, if we need insurance executives to come in here and talk about insurance, or talk about other things that are relevant, that we don't fully understand, like we used to do with noise monitors and stuff. I think that's helpful. Then you guys don't have to make decisions, you just want to hear about it, learn
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, because insurance is interesting. I don't know if you saw that they're allowing people to carve out wildfire now.
Yeah.
And which, who knows what that's going to be, but we absolutely don't care about wildfire. We care about liability. And so we might need to be very precise. But I think it's a good conversation, not here, but a good conversation to have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
we get $1,500 policies for liability on properties. I don't know how they cover the rest of the structure. I mean, we just see the liability piece.
Yeah.
They're individual, I guess
Yep.
they're separate policies or something, huh? They seem to be,
Yep, yep.
yeah, so anyways, yeah. Yeah, just send them directly to me though, don't copy your board.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I'll come up with a running total and.
Yeah, but don't limit it to us if you've heard from some other people,
Oh,
or
we'll
you
have
have
some
things for your staff.
administratively.
If
Yeah,
you have your
Adrian and I
staff
have
that
ideas.
have ideas, let's talk about it.
I know
And
Adrian has to
again,
reorganize
we're
it.
not gonna get to wording, we're gonna get to concept.
Okay. Yeah, there's a few that we've talked about on the process, right, on the application intake.
Well, and what I saw is, last time, there was, and again, I'm not saying the process would be the same, but, you kind of had a scope for the commissioners to consider. And to me, it's really getting you in a position to say, by the way, here are 4 or 5 things that,
Yep,
We should
pictures
consider.
and a roadmap, that's how we get things done with it.
yep,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, that's not an action item. So should we go to closing public comment?
You'll probably want to hear this one.
Oh.
You say it with a smile, or what is it?
This, yeah, it's not painful yet. Ellie Waller, not to rain on your parade, I sat at TRPA today on their phase 3 housing proposals to get senior housing, disabled housing, affordable, moderate, whatever terms they're using, they're developing code. But STRs, they don't call them VHRs, they call them short-term rentals, came into the discussion today about the impacts, because again, there isn't any analysis required to date on impacts of, are there more vehicle miles traveled, all these crazy terms that we have and that are made up, in my opinion. But will, in the future, in this, they're gonna release a notice of preparation for an environmental impact study. Should a vacation home rental require a unit of use now, putting a land designation type unit of use? So will it require a tourist accommodation unit? I just want, you know, this is gonna take 1.5 years for them to get through this process, but having it being floated, you need to know that you might at some point, and as soon as I know, you'll know if this is gonna have any teeth. And you as individuals, as owners, or you as individuals as Tahoe residents might need to start going to meetings. And I will keep you informed. I can find everybody's emails separately and keep you informed about TRPA meetings that might impact how the basin starts to look at the structure of the impacts of there's about 6,000 that they have defined legally, although they haven't made the local jurisdictions turn in a piece of paper saying we have 546, but we will allow this many. And so at some point, it looks like there's going to be a little more focus on.
Well, we give a very detailed list every year of all the VHRs. So,
Right, but they don't do anything with it, and that's what their board is telling them. Well, if there's 6,000 of them, there's got to be an impact and some kind of analysis. Won't be on the county's requirement to do the analysis, but TRPA will have to do an overarching one and figure out, do they have to assess impact fees on top of everything else? So just so you guys know, you'll want to attend meetings. So today was just a preliminary, they're talking about this because we can't get enough affordable housing on the ground for the workforce, so they're going to go after second homeowners as well. It was a very strange meeting today, so, you make a choice to have a second home, they should be able to tell you what you can and cannot do with it. So, anyway.
Thank you.
Just a heads up.
And I would ask if you just copy the board, if you BCC us that. What we don't want to do is it start off a conversation among 2 or 3 of us.
Yeah.
Other,
Since there's no one else. Hi everyone, Heidi Gunter, owner of World Class Property Management. Most of you know me already. So when you're going through the process, questions, how would this work, how does it not work, it would be really helpful if you talk to actual property managers like myself who've been doing this for 18 years on a very large scale. I know all the rules, how they should be applied, what works, what doesn't work on a very, very large scale. I'd be happy to maybe host like a discussion group or something, as long as it doesn't violate open meeting law. If we can have a roundtable meeting or something with other property managers in town, and then permit holders, so we can actually use rules that work, and then get rid of the rules like parking permits in my own driveway. Not needed. In big communities like Lake Village, Tahoe Village, Summit Village, yes, they're useful, but not in a driveway or in a garage. So just consider that when you're moving forward with those. I would really like to be involved in that because it directly affects me and my renters. And if you have questions about things like rules for permitted houses when a homeowner uses them. Well, I am a permit holder. I do rent my house out about 10 days during the summer, but I still have to have a permit for that. However, I don't want to be regulated the rest of the year when I'm using my house or when I have guests coming to stay at my house. My house is different though, because I live there full-time. Now, the houses that we do manage, they have guests of owners that come and use their property, but those homeowners don't live there full-time. They don't use their house like I do. When they have a guest of an owner on my books, I fully expect that guest of owner to 100% follow the rules that I enforce for any renter. Because I know that that house is a red flag on it. I know that it's listed as VHR and that that homeowner doesn't live there full-time. So I make my owner tell their guest, these are the rules, they're posted in the house. You're not signing a contract with me, however, I still want you to follow the rules because all the neighbors are watching you. And the neighbors don't know the difference between them and a renter. They know who the owner is. They don't know the owner's friends all the time, so just a little input for that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ernie, just to clarify, if there was a working group of the agents or permit holders, it's probably somewhat dangerous for us to be there just for open meeting law, especially if, you know, 2 or 3 of us. Can you just comment, or
Yeah,
Mr. Ritchie, if you one?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Ernie Strela for the record. So we can host a workshop and, you know, advertise it as appropriate and invite whoever you want, you know, whoever that audience is, permit holders, probably the public. You want to have people that are non-permit holders because they're going to have input, as well as the property managers and stuff like that. This is a specific, a couple of you guys can show up for that, as long as you can stagger your times if you want, like come for half an hour and then leave, and, or, you know, however you guys want to do it, or we could do multiple events so, you know, everybody gets a chance.
Is
But
it
yeah,
still a violation of open meeting law if
not for
only
2.
2
2 is okay.
go? Okay.
Just for the two.
Yeah, it would be 2 and 2. So a quorum is for.
So Keith and
you
Mickey
can-
could go.
You and Keith can go, and as long as you guys don't beat each other up.
So we learned something?
Because I've been looking for somewhere to go.
But we can,
People keep telling me where to go, but I've been looking for it.
if you guys choose to want to do something like that, I'm fine bringing some flip charts and some pins, and we can do that.
I just want to make sure, you know, to me, some of them are just so obvious to us.
Yeah.
But, you know, they might be obvious, but not what we finally think when we have the conversation. But it's just trying to get a full list of those things.
Just remember, when you open the code up, though, for, you know, it's just not you guys that decide to add things to it.
Oh, I think our main purpose of this, Ernie, is to really put it in your mind, not the county commissioners. Because it is something that, you know, we kind of have an outside view because you're in it every day. And really it's, you know, kind of coming to a consensus with yourself. And the code change will come whenever the code changes or never. Because we did, you know, the last thing we wanted to do is have all the animosity and no change, right? So we've kind of talked about where is the BOCC's head and how do we support them in that, not, you know, getting into public debate with them. Okay.
Gotcha.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Public comment?
Oh, there was, so there are only 2.
That's right, it did.
100%. We have,
We're still in the-
could we note that we have 100% public comment in our meetings and nobody else gets that kind of, if there's a KPI, we were overachieving, 100% public comment in our meetings.
I second, yeah.
First, second, there was a motion by Lauren to adjourn, a second by Glenn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Sorry about that.